Windows 10 behaves like a malware, and you need to take steps to prevent getting it if you don't want it. Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for AskLeo.com. In the last week, we've had a lot of news and activity around Windows 10's automatic update, in that for many Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 users, Windows 10 is being installed either without asking or by misleading them. Now, I refer to it as acting like malware. In fact, one of my assistants brought that term to my attention, and when I thought about it, it applied. Windows 10's installation system is acting as if it were malware, or at least a potentially unwanted program, a pup. It's installing, and many people aren't asking for it. It's just installing without permission. Well, that sounds like malware. It's installing along with unrelated things via Windows Update by becoming a recommended update, I guess, is the change that they made. Well, that sounds like a potentially unwanted program. It's installing, and essentially Windows Update is saying you should go ahead and install it, but you never asked for it. And in many cases, there's no potentially about it. You don't want it. It's an unwanted program. But finally, it's actually misleading people into installing Windows 10. And that's the big news item this week. That's the thing that, well, to me, it's the final straw. They've crossed a line. The issue is that in many cases, I'll even say in most cases, I believe it's to be true, that it will now present this dialog box telling you that Windows 10 is ready to be installed and when would you like to install it. Now, the issue is that we've been trained over the years, over many years, to when we see a dialog box like this and we don't want to act on it, or especially if we don't necessarily trust it, we close it. Well, if you click the little X in the upper right-hand corner, that does in fact close the dialog box. It closes that pop-up message that says Windows 10 is ready to be installed. The misleading part is it takes that as your approval to install Windows 10, and it proceeds with the installation. In other words, closing the dialog box using the close window, which in 99.99% of all other applications on the planet means don't do this, stop, close, go away, cancel, whatever synonym you want. In this case, Microsoft has decided that it means, yes, please continue with the installation. That's misleading, and like I said, to me, that's a step over the line. Unfortunately, Microsoft is completely unapologetic about this. They apparently don't care. They apparently, whenever they are being asked about this, are simply pointing people at the wonderful literature about how wonderful Windows 10 is and everybody should be happy to get it. Well, I'm afraid to say that that's not the case. There are many, many valid reasons for people not to be able to run Windows 10, not to choose to run Windows 10, and in fact be unable to run Windows 10 for a variety of reasons that, to be honest, Microsoft may know nothing about and can know nothing about. For example, I have machines that run Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. I need those so that I can continue to answer questions about Windows 7 and Windows 8.1. There's no way I want those upgraded to Windows 10. They're capable of being upgraded, I believe. They meet all the specifications. If I were just using Windows for Windows' sake, they'd be fine Windows 10 machines. But I already have a Windows 10 machine. I don't need 8.1 or 7 replaced with Windows 10. And as a result, I've taken steps, which I'll talk about in a minute, to prevent Windows 10 from being installed on those machines. The problem is that, of course, many people don't know about those steps. They are simply running along, trusting that if they get a message and they do what they think is appropriate to cancel it, it won't happen. Well, I got news. It's happening, and it's happening a lot, and people are not happy about it at all. Another misleading part about that dialog box, by the way, is that if you look very carefully in the middle of it, there's the hidden text that says, here's how you cancel the upgrade, but it is in no way obvious. It's really sad that Microsoft felt they needed to resort to this tactic to get Windows 10 installed. It's a really, really bad first impression, and we know how important first impressions are. Many people now have an innate distrust not only of Microsoft, but of Windows 10 specifically, because they had it forced on them rather than it being a choice. And that's what it should have been. Rather than forcing us to install Windows 10 or ramming it down our digital throats, Microsoft could have instead simply shown us how much better an operating system it was and allowed us to make the choice ourselves to install Windows 10. Nope, they did it for us. They felt that they know better, and they basically said, you're getting it in many cases, whether you want it or not. Now, I hesitate to say in Microsoft's defense, but I will at least in one point. And that is that while these tactics, like I said, they've crossed a line, they've gone too far. This is inappropriate for Microsoft to be doing. But I truly believe that they believe that this is the best thing for all of us. They truly believe that upgrading to Windows 10 is, in fact, the correct thing for us, even though many of us know that it is not, for a variety of reasons. I honestly believe that their intentions are good. The problem is they're not listening to the feedback that says you don't understand the whole picture. Not everybody needs Windows 10. Not everybody wants Windows 10, and not everybody can run Windows 10. So Microsoft, in my opinion, is making a huge, huge mistake. Once again, not necessarily a mistake of technology, because Windows 10 is a fine operating system. I've got no qualms about Windows 10 itself. It's the mechanism and the method that they're using to get that widespread Windows 10 adoption that they're looking for. They're going about it all wrong. What's also sad about this, and this is maybe the saddest part of all, is that it probably won't matter. I say that because we've been in a situation like this before. When Windows XP was first introduced some 15 years ago now, it actually raised quite the ruckus. Many, many people were very upset at some of the new features in Windows XP and the dramatic change that it implied for PCs. Everything, of course, from the kind of PC that was required to run Windows XP, but more than anything else, one single feature had many, many people upset, and that single feature was activation. Activation is something we take for granted today. Windows XP went on to be one of the most loved operating systems on the planet. It was certainly the most popular and most installed operating system on the planet. The fact is, after a few years, all the furor died down. We didn't even care anymore about activation. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100. It just worked, didn't get in our way. It really wasn't as bad as we thought. My prediction is that in a couple years, maybe 5 at the outset, none of this will matter anymore. The fact that Windows 10 is being forced on us will be a distant memory. Nobody will have learned from it. And in a sense, Microsoft will be rewarded for having done it because they will have the greater installed base of Windows 10 because they rammed it down everybody's throat today. It's unfortunate. It's frustrating. It's angering, actually, for those people that suddenly find themselves faced with Windows 10. So you need to take steps to prevent it. If you don't want or can't run Windows 10 on your machine, and you're running Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, then you need to install and run either Never10 from grc.com or GWX Control Panel. I'm actually running one of each. That Windows 7 machine that I was talking about, I ran Never10 on it. The Windows 8.1 machine runs GWX Control Panel. I want to keep an eye on both of those utilities to make sure that they're doing the right thing. With those installed and properly configured, the Windows 10 upgrade is blocked. But if you don't know that, then you don't know that you need to install those utilities. I had a friend actually call me because her machine suddenly started installing Windows 10. Had no idea that this was going to happen. Probably either tried to close that dialog box with the X or did something else or didn't do anything, and Windows 10 began to install. Fortunately, very fortunately for her, the install actually failed before any damage was done. So I was able to then immediately get on that machine, and I installed GWX Control Panel, and the machine's been running. It's a Windows 7 machine. It's been running just fine ever since. That's what I recommend strongly that everybody do right now. We don't care that Windows 10 is free at this point. We'll talk about that another day. Right now, to prevent Windows 10 from installing on your machine without your permission and perhaps even without your knowledge, you need to install one of these two programs, Never 10 out at grc.com, or search for GWX Control Panel. I've got an article on it as well. So normally at this point in a video, I'll give you the link, and here's the link to the video where you'll find all the comments that are moderated and all of the comments that I read. But normally at this point I ask, well, what do you think about it all? Well, to be honest, I already know. There are a lot of angry people who are really frustrated by Microsoft's Windows 10 distribution tactics. What I'll ask instead is this. Have you experienced this? Did it happen to you? How did you recover? Could you recover? Did you have a backup you could recover to? Because that, of course, is the other way to recover from this having happened to you without your permission. I'd like to hear about those stories. I'd like to hear what's happened to you and whether or not this is really as big an issue for you as it seems to be for an awful lot of people. So, like I said, here's the link to the article. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you again next week. Take care. Remember, stay safe, have fun, and don't forget to back up. You might need to restore in case Windows 10 gets installed.